Hey, I'm Jay Beershank. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. You're joining me here in Rigi, Switzerland. It's one of my favorite places in Switzerland. I hope this angle does it justice. I'll show you a little bit. I really love this place. We have the Niebling Sea, which is German for fog lake, all the way there just as far as you can see. Fog, fog, fog. And then beautiful, beautiful mountains over here. I love this area. I got a gift from my girlfriend's friend. It was a train ticket. I think the train ticket's like 30 francs to come up here or something. Anyway, we're gonna do a little book review from up here. Thanks for joining me. Another edition of Book Reviews. This is my YouTube channel. I'm Jay Beershank. Today we're gonna review a super duper mega classic. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a title that I feel like is put on such a high tier for esoteric literature. It might even be in the top 3. Everybody knows it. Everybody reads it, I feel like, when they start going through that phase of their life. This is probably the book I've read the most in my life just because it's everywhere. I found this book in Nepal at a hotel and I picked it up just because I hadn't read it in a few years. I think I've read it 3 times now. First time when I was probably 14 or 15, then I was about 20, and now so about every 5 years. And obviously it's an extremely important book. It wouldn't be so renowned if it wasn't for some particular reason impactful or moving for people. And I think that, well, I'll get into why. And that book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't necessarily know how to say his name. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Paulo Coelho is a great author. I love his books. I have another one on here. I forgot the exact title. I think it's 11 Minutes. I love that book. It's a book about kind of sacred sexuality. And he has another book, something about Warriors of Light. It's a great quote book. It's a great book just to read snips every day and write about them and think about them. And he has many other novels. I haven't really read all of them, but this one, like I said, I've read a lot. And basically, this book is about following your dreams. And what does that mean? And basically, he translates this in a really fun way where it's basically, you have to, in the vaguest of ways, listen to your heart. And what does listening to your heart means? It basically means being able to communicate with the soul of the world. Like, we're looking at something right now here that is so monumentous. It's so beautiful. And when you look at it, it's meta real. It's meta truth. This is more real. This is more true than anything that we can think is important or that we can gain or that we can hoard or that we can have in the material world. This is meta real. This is, well, it's funny, this is not out of this world. This is this world, but in a way that the world we've created, the world that we live in this kind of modern day society, this is out of this world. This is supernatural, super beautiful. And basically what he's saying is when you listen to your heart is able to communicate with the soul of the world and the language of the world. And the language of the world is this meta language that speaks through you. It is what you're a conduit for by being open to some kind of a higher spiritual truth. And the way in which you open to a higher spiritual truth is by believing in your own personal destiny or believing in your dreams. And not only believing in them, but then being willing to act upon them. And how do we act upon them? This goes back to a beautiful idea I talked about through my book review for the Celestine Prophecy. The Celestine Prophecy is another beautiful book that I think talks really about the exact same things that this book is talking about. But basically, we have a dream. Okay, great. Many of us have a dream. But now, how do we follow this dream? How do we move along the path? We can look at it from an intellectual point of view where it's step A, step B, step C. And sure, you might achieve it this way. But then there's another way of looking at it that's more of a supernatural way, which would be that the world, the language of the world or spirit or destiny is providing you with opportunities through the moments in your life if you're open enough to notice these moments and to believe in their significance and follow them. So in this book, the main character, I forgot his name, Santiago maybe? Anyway, he's willing to notice these moments. So things are happening in his life and then he is willing to say, okay, I see this, I believe it, I'm gonna follow it, I'm gonna trust it, I'm gonna do it. So he starts as a shepherd, he sells his sheep. This is a big crazy thing. Then he sails across the Strait of Gibraltar, I believe. Now he's in Morocco, he's from Spain. This is like, just this stuff is happening and he's willing to go with it and go with it and go with it. And in the Celestine Prophecy, they talk about this in a fun way too, where it's like, more minute. It's like if you see somebody in a restaurant and you make eye contact, there is some particular reason why this person has came into your life and has got your attention, because there is an infinite amount of other people and other positions and other situations where you could find yourself in, but you're not finding yourself in those situations. You're finding yourself in this one. So there is some particular reason. And if you're believing in your destiny and you're believing in your dream, then it's even more likely that this is something that is being put here for you. And so obviously this is a really empowering, beautiful book. And so this is the main scope of the book. This young man is following his destiny. He's looking for his treasure. And what the overarching scope of the book is if you follow your heart, you will find your treasure. And that's a beautiful idea. And now I think the reason why this book is so beautifully famous is because he condenses an eternity's worth of wisdom and spiritual knowledge into a book that could even be considered, a children's book. It's very simple to read, it's very easy to read, and it's a book that, like many other books, every time you read it, you will resonate with a particular part depending on where you're coming from at that particular time in your life. And you can say this about all books, but with a book like this, it's a bit more monumentous in the sense of the part that's resonating or what you're getting out of the book is kind of like a life lesson or something that is a bit more moving than maybe just being like, oh, I'm also having a breakup, or oh, I'm also learning how to cook, which maybe other books would resonate like this. I don't know what resonates for you in books, but anyway, all I'm trying to say is it's another beautiful book like that because it packs enough spiritual density that every time you read it, no matter what position or where you find yourself in your life, it will resonate in some way. And I think that that's why it's so famous, because everybody that reads it feels moved by it in one way or another. Depending on where they are, it doesn't matter where they are because they're moved by it. So I think that's really beautiful, and I'd say that the simplicity of it is another part that makes it so appealing, is I think it's only like 150 pages, and only 150 pages, and it's really, really easy to read. It goes really quickly, and it's one of those books where you can just read it through, and maybe you don't even notice like these little tidbits that are so powerful. Like a couple quotes that I think of. There's a quote in here: he falls in love with a woman in the desert, and the women of the desert basically look to the desert, and it's this kind of metaphor for, it's like women from the desert trust that their men will go out into the unknown, which is the desert, and they will come back. And so the women are always looking to the unknown with trust and faith and kind of a clarity. And this is a really beautiful metaphor. But anyway, he falls in love with this woman from the desert, and basically there's a quote in there where he has to go, and he says something, I think one of his teachers says something along the lines of like, a true love will never hold a man back from following his destiny. And I think that this is such a crazy important thing for young men to understand, and especially me. This resonated with me. I'm in a relationship, and I've been in it now for longer than I've usually been in relationships, and I also sometimes feel like, yeah, well, why do I feel like there's a conflict between what I'm called to do and what I feel like my heart wants to do, which is not quite the same thing. But anyway, that's what I'm going through. And anyway, it's a beautiful idea if you think about it in your own way, that a true love will never hold a man back from living his destiny. I think that's very beautiful. And there, he kind of goes through phases. There's another book called Siddhartha, where a young man also goes through phases. So he kind of goes through like his ignorance phase, where he's just like a happy shepherd. Then he goes through his commerce phase, and then he goes through his lover phase, and then he comes back full circle to kind of like the beginning of his hero's journey. That's how he goes in this book. And so when he's going through his commerce phase, there's a lot of interesting portrayals and ideas and information and metaphors for kind of going through this phase of success and propelling yourself forward. And also then how this can be a reflection of following your destiny, and kind of this idea that everything in your life is enhanced and encouraging you and propelling you forward towards your destiny when you're following your destiny, regardless if it's clear and easy to see how. Like, for example, he became a worker inside of a shop, which seemed like he was being held back from following his bigger goal, but really in retrospect, it was actually enabling him to pursue it in a much more full way. And I think this is always a really important thing to be aware of in our own lives. It's like everything that we're doing is navigating us in some way or another to the end, I guess, to the end of your life. And you can often think of it as like a rut, or you're doing something that is maybe not worth your time or is not putting you in the position that you wish to be in. But it's almost like when you don't see value in your time has no value. But when you're able to see how everything in your life is positioning you to where you are right now, and if you can accept and love where you are right now, then everything that got you there was more than worth it. So, something like that. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got to say. I really love the idea about listening to the heart. I'm going to try to break it down really simply now. I put it in my journal in a really simple way, and it's like, I think I'll even read it to you. I think I have my journal right here, so sorry for this little intermission. I usually don't like to have big breaks in the journal talks, but you know, it's a new time, it's a new day, so I can do it now. So here we go. Put this here, sorry about that. Get that view right. I'm sitting on my backpack here. We had to look around to get a good place. Most people I don't think make it 10 minutes into my videos anyway, so if you made it this far, you're probably willing to wait. Anyway, so the way I put it here is, because I tried to break it down in like the most simple step-by-step term of how I thought about it, and that ended up being, following your heart will always lead you to your treasure. The heart speaks the language of the world. The language of the world speaks to us in signs and omens. We lose the ability to interpret and believe in and see the signs when we stop listening to our heart. The less we listen to our hearts, the less it speaks to us. This is because the heart knows it pains us to hear it speaking the language of the world when we've given up on following omens. After a while, we forget that the world speaks to us at all. We forget about a greater purpose or a dream. We begin living completely within the humanity, within the ego. And I talked about that quote, true love. In the end, all we can do is follow our path because we will never know it all, will never understand the infinite. Only the animating energy, God, love, or in this book they call it the hand that wrote, Allah, will understand all. Our human egoic conquests for control and security are futile. No matter how far you go, you'll never get there. So listening to the voice of the world, surrendering to a higher order, a divine purpose, is the only way to live a fully lived life. One that resembles magic and one that is perceived as supernatural. So that's that. I want to quickly touch on that part. I love that part. It was talking about how basically, you know, when we stop listening to our heart, when we stop following our destiny, our heart will stop speaking to us as clearly because our heart feels guilt for presenting our dreams to us when it knows that we are not going to follow them, because it knows that we will feel bad about not following our own dreams. I thought that was a really beautiful thing to think about. It's like so many people will put their dreams or this idea of a higher purpose or that life is some kind of magical thing, they'll put it to the side because they've accepted a modern life. I don't know how to say it any better, but they've accepted a life that doesn't have magic, and that life is just a procedure of moment after moment, task after task, and there's no real, animating spark or no magical aspect to their life. And so the heart stops talking to you because the heart knows you've given up on magic, and every time you're reminded of magic, you'll feel bad. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. So let's bring the magic back into our lives. Let's follow our destiny. Let's trust ourselves. Let's trust this animating spirit that is so goddamn powerful and beautiful. Life is beautiful. Hope you guys all get to enjoy it. Stay in the light, stay in the love. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace out from Rigi Colm, Switzerland. Thanks.